Welcome back to the news at 10. The just concluded handover of Nigeria's public power utility to private investors in November last year is a process expected to kickstart a revolution in terms of electricity supply. And while that process may have started in earnest, experts through their contributions have been suggesting how to deliver power soonest. Joining that advocacy also is a global call for energy efficiency and management. In this next report, our energy correspondent, Olu Phillips, evaluates this trend that could be replicated in the task of powering a megacity like Lagos.
Did you know that by 2050, the world's energy demand will double? Did you also know that 1.6 billion people have no access to electricity? And more worrisome, perhaps, is that 60% of energy generation is fossil fuel based. Whenever energy issues are discussed, we often look in one direction: climate change, which essentially comes from three key drivers: urbanization, industrialization, and digitalization. With urbanization comes a population demand for more homes, jobs, transport, and connections. And all of this means a demand for more infrastructure and energy. Lagos, a prospective megacity with an estimated 18 million people, fits that billing. But for that status, it currently gets, on the average, 600 megawatts of electricity, far from the average reliable demand it requires. Just as with the growth population pattern and energy demand come a growing middle class with a growing disposable income, asking for more, which again raises concern of energy challenge. At the just concluded economic summit in Lagos, increasing capacity in electricity supply took center stage, with compelling recommendations pouring in. But hang on a second. While waiting for that to happen, let's take a clue from global trends. The new ideology being propagated across the West is energy efficiency and management. And data and innovations available now show that many houses, offices, and homes don't actually know their energy consumption. Channels Television is at the forefront of energy management advocacy and CO2 footprint reduction. So we join a select media team from countries across Africa, Europe, America, and Asia in Paris, France, to see what new initiatives exist.
We slightly educate ourselves, our people, on the importance of energy consumption. We make it visible and we change the habits, we change the behaviors. And we now have a good visibility about where these people are within the 6 floors, in which sections are there, and where are the areas where they are not, where we do not need heating, where we do not need lighting. What makes this building, let's say, a reference internationally? Not only we have French certifications, but we reached an international and a global certification which is recognized by all, let's say, the policymakers throughout the world. And thanks also to that, by our energy managers, we're able to manage the process. Again, certification is one thing, but it's a clear management of process behind that.
We may not be getting all that can be in terms of generation, which hovers between 2,500 megawatts to 4,000 megawatts, but how effectively do we manage existing supply? For instance, 7 years ago, a power audit was conducted on this building sitting on the 10,000 square meters. Today, the energy management systems put in place by way of circuit breakers with embedded softwares have reduced the consumption by half. By way of statistics, this is what happened. That effectively led to a reduction in electricity consumption to the tune of 7,601,264 kilowatts per hour, which by translation amounted to 294,552 euros, an equivalent of 68 million naira, and by implication, the emissions into the air was reduced by 232,726 kg of CO2, and that effectively saved 16,000 hectares of trees.
We have to change the energy mix, yes. We have to include more renewables, change the types of fuels we're using. But that part only helps change and meet the existing increasing demand. We also have to slow down demand.
Today, an increasing number of cars in France are powered by electricity, taking advantage of solar energy. Most cars parked like this have solar panels as roof, so you just plug, recharge, and drive. For instance, this 60 square meter roof is equivalent to supply in terms of electricity 6,110 kilowatts of electricity, which is equivalent to 40,000 kilometers of drive and equivalent to reducing 6 tons of CO2 emission, the experts tell me.
And after that, with this inverter, we can supply, after that, what we want. We can supply building, or we can supply an electrical car, for example. And that's the way to have energy with the sun.
Smart city ideas is fast catching up, and cities like Lagos must key in.
We expect that as we continue the work, incrementally, we should begin to see over the distance some improvement. We've seen improvements where we have built independent power plants, and we expect that everything is possible.
So far, Lagos generates 32 megawatts of independent power by way of natural gas. But going forward, captive energy can be conserved for use only when they are needed. We need to translate our failures to opportunities, our challenges to a platform for investment. From Paris, in France, this is Sulu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Also discuss further Nigeria's the management of our power situation in the country. I'm being joined on the News at 10 by engineer Adekola Adedeji. Welcome to the News at 10. So, well, listen to that report, of course. Power management is important, but you have to have power first before you begin to manage it, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct, yes. You need to have power before you can talk of transmission and distribution for the consumers. In our setting, that is in our country, over the years, some efforts have been made to increase the power generation level. Unfortunately, during the period of the military regime, not much was done. But by the time the civilian administration came in, some efforts have been made to really improve on the situation. So at that point in time, before the civilian administration, we were operating between two, I'd like to talk in terms of gigawatts, because that's international unit, to compare from one country to the other. So between 2 to 3 gigawatts, that means 2,000 and 3,000 gigawatts. There'll be quite a problem, some problems. Even after that, the problem of gas situation, infrastructural decay, and stuff like that. So when that scenario was coming on, we have the administration, the current civilian administration, that make some, efforts, planting or building more power plants. Well, some of them are being commissioned, but we still have this impediment of gas supply, because most of them are gas-driven plants. So, because of this limitation, we are not seeing the effect much. And we also have the issue of busting of gas pipelines and all these attendant problems. So in effect, what we have on ground at the moment is still less than 4,000, let me say 4 gigawatts.
And it should be, so how do we manage that? I think
what
that's
is
a bigger
available
question.
now?
Yeah, what is available? How do we manage that? I mean, because
there are constraints, there's no doubt about it. Like we have said, even to deliver this, let me say about 3,000 or whatever, hovering around that figure, 3,000 megawatts or 3 gigawatts, we still have these challenges of busting of pipe. When the pipes are burst, it means the plants cannot be run. Then power will not be available, or they are limited. Instead of delivering about 3,000, maybe you end up delivering about 1.5 gigawatts.
And then
so
how do we
when
manage
now the question is, how do you
gigawatts?
manage what is available? It can't go round. You need to be shifting, have power shift from one area to the other. But what we can do now, one, we need to conserve what is available, because we have a lot of wastages, downstream. that is with consumers. A lot of people put on power, on when they are not even needed in some areas, like in some rooms. So people need to be educated, to make sure they do not waste what is available. Then the other options that can be used, you can have inverters, because when you have inverters, you don't necessarily have to put on the power supply. So these are the areas you can use to conserve what is available. Then also we have issue of losses along the line. I believe the DISCO, that's the distribution companies, are making efforts to see that these losses are taken care of. Though the consumers are arguing that some of these losses are being passed to them, but well, that's where NEC comes in. That is Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. So they have to find a way of mediating, to make sure what is available is effectively managed.
And Engineer Adedeji, thank you so much for your insights on this. I wish we could continue, but we're actually, this is the much that we can take.
Okay.